Well, goodness, I'd like to roll back the clock and keep the President of the United States from spending almost $2 trillion the first year on this Recovery Act, which we all warned him would cause inflation. Obviously we can't turn back the clock, but the last thing we need to do is these huge spending programs like Vice President Harris has proposed to do. The idea of giving first-time homeowners hundreds of thousands of dollars so that they can buy a home, this is not the American free enterprise system. It's a ridiculous idea, and I certainly hope the Congress never gets to the position where they would authorize something like that. The way to get first-time home buyers in a home is to have inflation lowered by not spending so much money, and that lowers interest rates, as you know, and getting interest rates back to say the 3.5%, 4% interest rates that we had during the Trump administration would do a whole lot more to allowing hardworking, middle class, and lower middle class American families to afford a mortgage, and that's the American way.
We have a $35 trillion national debt. With that debt, can the American people in the United States afford to continue to support those wars overseas as well as deal with the natural disasters and other domestic issues?
Well, the short answer to that is yes, we can afford to do things that make the United States safe, that keep us out of war. So the short answer is yes, but we're spending way too much money, and we've dug deep into this issue. It's not Medicare, and it's not Social Security, and it's not foreign assistance that are driving this debt. The truth of the matter, and I could show you the graphs. The truth of the matter is, it's the mandatory programs where people are being given a benefit without working, and it's become a disincentive to employment, it's a disincentive to revving up our economy.
I think we can always improve the economy. We can always, and that's part of the job of elected officials, to always try to make it better for Americans, make Americans' lives better. I got 2 kids at home. I got a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old at home. I got to buy eggs. I got to buy milk. I got to buy bacon. I got to go fill my car up with gas. I understand that Mississippians are feeling pressure at the grocery store and at the gas station. But we also have to acknowledge that we are moving in the right direction. The unemployment rate sits at about 4.9% right now. The GDP growth, about 3% right now. Inflation has lowered. So while things are getting better, we are pointed in the right direction. We still have work to do.
Many people make a decision on the economy when they go to the polls, how they're feeling, and you talk about the grocery store and getting milk and groceries and everything else, and gas. How do you make people look at those numbers and say, but I just still feel that? How do you get past that?
Well, we have to understand that Americans, they do, like I said, they do have to go to the grocery store and acknowledge their pain. It's not some imaginary thing. Acknowledge that, but continue to explain to everyday Americans and explain to Mississippians that we're working to make it better, and point to the positive aspects of the economy that exist, and make sure Americans understand that. They understand, again, that the unemployment rate is down, inflation is down. The federal government just cut interest rates by 0.5 point. So point that out to Americans, make sure they understand the implications of that, not just the short-term implications, but mid-term and long-term implications also.
Governor Tate Reeves has said that Mississippi has a lot of momentum when it comes to the job creation. For example, Amazon is investing billions of dollars for new data centers in Madison County, and nearly $2 billion EV battery plants up in the works for Marshall County. What role does the federal government have played in job creation?
Well, I think the federal government has to well, first of all, that's wonderful. In Madison County, where we're getting plants over there, other areas of the state, up in North Mississippi and DeSoto County, where there are investments taking place, down in South Mississippi on the coast, where we're investing in the gaming and fishing industry. But if we want to be serious about moving Mississippi from the back of the line to the middle of the pack to winning the race for our country, our state's future, we have to make sure that we start investing on the western side of this state, in the Mississippi Delta. People complain all the time that Mississippi is 50th in economic development and job creation. You cannot ignore, and in half the state, the western side of the state, which just so happens to be the blackest part of the state, and assume that somehow we're going to move from the back of the line to the middle of the pack to the front of to winning the race.
We are at the halfway mark in our special report, but there's much more ahead as the candidates diverge on border security and immigration. We're back after the break.